Wondering how to export a video in Premiere Pro? You are at the right place. Let's do it together. Ciao belli, welcome to a new tutorial. Today we will see how to export a video in Adobe Premiere Pro. Whether it's for a YouTube or Instagram upload, for a client's project, or for a professional broadcast delivery. Here we are in Premiere, and here comes tip number 1, even before starting. Always re-watch your video before exporting the file. How many times I've exported like a 30 minutes vlog, uploaded it on YouTube, and then I noticed some black frames or some graphics that were not rendered or some mistakes with the subtitles, and I had to restart the process from scratch. So that's really time consuming. So you want to rewatch the video in Premiere. It doesn't matter how long it is, you guys want to rewatch it now. So do that. Then as you've done it, we're gonna actually export it. So the next thing is to create an in and an out mark on your timeline. So we go on our sequence, go at the beginning of the sequence, press I on your keyboard, which is in, and then go at the end. Now you will see a black frame at the end of your video if you really are at the end of your video. What you want to do is to go back towards the left, basically one frame. So you're gonna press the left arrow key on your keyboard, only one frame, until you see your image popping up again. And now you press O on the keyboard, so out. And we're creating a section, basically the whole video to be rendered. If you don't do so, you might have only one section of your video selected, which is maybe in the middle, like that. And the export will only include this section of the video. So make sure you've got everything selected from beginning to end. And now we're actually exporting the files. To do so, you've got a couple of commands. You go to File, Menu, Export, and Media, or as Premiere is suggesting, you press Command M when you are in your sequence. So let's go back to the sequence. Press Command M. This window will pop up. And we have a few settings to go through. Now let's talk about exports for YouTube, social media, or Instagram in general, okay? So a few settings. You will see here in Format, we want to use H.264. So make sure you select H.264. These are all different types of compressions, basically, of your file. Unfortunately, we have to compress the file to upload it on the web. If you go in Preset, you will see a long list of presets. So if you want something for YouTube in 4K or HD, it's already there. But I want to teach you how to customize your own preset. If you don't see the custom options on the top, then select any of them, and then just modify any of the values here, or just untick, for example, this window, and automatically on the top you will see you have now a preset, like a custom preset. So just change any of the settings and it will create a custom options for you. So we go to the top, custom, here it is. And by the way, my video is in 4K, but I show you how to export it in HD as well. Output name, automatically this is the name of your sequence, okay? So Premiere will create a name with the sequence name. We want to click on it and we're going to browse where to save it. So I go into my hard drives, wherever you want to save it. I create a new folder called web. That's how I call my files for the web, or you can call it exports or whatever you like. Press create and name it. If you want to keep the same name, it's up to you. You can call it HD, 4K, and so on. So that's definitely up to you. And you save it right there. Save. Perfect. Now this is important, guys. You want to make sure you export the video and the audio. Again, a lot of times I exported only the video because that was unselected. I didn't check, and I just exported the video with no audio. So definitely you want to make sure you tick both of them before carrying on. In the summary section, you will see actually a summary, a brief of what your file is about. So you will see the frame rate, 24 frames per second. You will see the resolution, which is a 4K. So 3840 pixels by 2160. You will also see the audio is included, so AAC, this is the audio stereo, and this is your source, so what you're actually exporting. As you can see, the sequence name, and again, it gives you a few information about the sequence. Something important as well, guys, you want to make sure you use the same settings of your original footage. So if the cameraman filmed your video, or if you filmed your own video at 24 frames per second, for example, in 4K resolution, usually you want to make sure you export the video with the same settings, especially with the frame rate. You can downscale the size, but make sure the frame rate is the same. For example, if I have a 4K video, but I want to export it in HD, you can do so. But don't mess up with the frame rate, otherwise the video is gonna do weird stuff. Now we go down to this menu. There's more options, but the one we're interested in are the video, the audio, and also the captions. I'm gonna show you how to export a video with captions, because my video actually has captions in it. First of all, video. We want to make sure you can either match the source, and again, this will match the sequence, so the footage in the sequence. But again, we're gonna customize it. As you can see here, basic video settings. This is my file in 4K again. But what if I want to export it in HD? So I will untick this, and now I'm going to type the resolution for a full HD file. If you have this icon selected, basically this icon links your width and the height of your frame. So if you change the width of your frame, automatically the software will adapt the height of the frame accordingly as well, in proportion. So if you want to create a full HD frame, we do 920 for the width, and Premiere we create automatically a height of 1080, which is a full HD, a correct full HD frame. If you don't do that, you can customize your frame as you want with your width and your height. And again, you can go here, you can scroll through your sequence, see that everything is there. See, for example, that was a mistake. So that's why I'm telling you to check your video beforehand. See, the clip here was rotated, and there's a part of the frame which is black. So that's something I want to fix. I want to go back in my sequence, fix it, and then export it. So always rewatch your video. Basic video settings. I've got a full HD file ready to go now. I can see here the frame rate is 24 frames per second, which matches with my original footage, which is great. Field order, progressive. Okay, we're not gonna go into depth, but make sure it's progressive. Aspect, this is the aspect of the pixel. You wanna make sure the pixel has a square shape, because it can be rectangular, and that will change completely the size of your frame. I show you quickly. If I go to anamorphic, see, your image will squeeze and expand horizontally. So make sure you've got square pixel selected. And again, this has to match with your original footage. But so if your original footage is actually in anamorphic, then you want to select anamorphic. So tick that. And then usually I render at maximum depth. So to make sure I've got the best quality out of there. In encoding settings, if you go to performance, hardware encoding, that's fine. But instead of main, I go to high 10, which is higher resolution. And I keep the level at 4.1. Okay, we scroll down. That's the next important thing, bitrate settings. So this is a bit more complicated, and I'm not going into depth again. You can check a few things about bitrating on Google. But basically, the bitrate is calculated in megabytes. So the more megabytes per second, the better video quality. And also the bigger size of your file. So we want to find a good balance. If you go here in the menu, you will see three options. CBR, which is constant bitrate. Basically, the software will give to your video a constant bitrate, so constant quality throughout the whole video, throughout each second. And that can increase the size of your video dramatically. The downside of the CBR is, as I said before, it keeps a constant bitrate, which means it will give the best data, or at least that's your target. You can choose your target bitrate, but it will give this bitrate through each second of your video. So if your video doesn't actually need much information, like again in this case there's nothing going on, the software will automatically give a high bitrate as well, which is not needed. So the size of your file would be big for no reason. The choice of these settings actually depends on each project and the deliverables and what platforms you're using to upload your video. So for example, for YouTube or social media, I usually use a VBR, which is a very variable bitrate. And you've got two different options for that: 1 pass or 2 pass. With a variable bitrate, what Premiere is doing basically, it will go through your video, through the whole video, and give a variable bitrate to each frame, to each second. For example, you have sections of your video which are more busy, so with more movement, with a lot of elements going on, and some which are less busy, so maybe just as I am right now. So plain background, me talking, not movements at all. But you might have, a cityscape or a lot of cars moving and people walking, that kind of stuff. So automatically Premiere will give more quality to the busy sections of your video. And if we choose VBR 1 pass, Premiere will give automatically in one go, it will choose the quality of the sections. Okay, so your bitrate will be up and down, while in the constant bitrate, basically the quality will be constant throughout the video. If you choose VBR, look at it like waves. So when the busy sections of the video are, then you have better bitrate. When there's nothing happening in your video, the bitrate will go down and the quality is still okay, but there's less information in your image. If we choose VBR2, in this case, Premiere will go through your video once, analyzing your video and actually spotting where your video needs more data. Then the software will go back at the start of your video, and now it will assign the best quality at the busiest places and less quality where there's nothing happening, basically. So it does a double check. Of course, that takes longer time, sometimes twice, 3, 4 times the normal render, but it's more accurate. So if you have time, I would definitely go for VBR 2 pass. That's what we select. And now, as you can see, you've got two options: target bitrate and maximum bitrate. So the target bitrate is the average of the bitrate you want to assign to your video, so the quality of your video. The maximum bitrate, that's the maximum quality you want to give to your video. If you go down here, estimated file size, for now my video is 141 megabytes. This is the actual export. If I increase the target bitrate here, look at that. It goes up to 3 gigabytes in no time. So you want to find a good balance. If you go on the YouTube specifications on the website, I think they recommend a bitrate of 45, 60 megabytes. So we can go to around 70, for example, is a good bitrate. Maximum, we can set maybe 100, just to give a bit of handles there. And as you can see, my final file will be 1 gigabyte. And this is a 2 minutes video. It's pretty good for YouTube. I think that's all I need. And then we keep scrolling down and we want to tick use maximum render quality again for better quality. I want to give you another couple of tips here with a bitrate. Basically, as I said before, your choice depends on the project you're working on and on the deliverables as well. If you're working for a client and you want to send an approval video just for them to check and see if everything is fine, I wouldn't give them the best quality yet. I would give them a file where they can understand what's going on, especially if you haven't been paid yet. So that's a safety net for you as a freelancer video maker or video editor, sometimes it's always better not to give the final video before being paid. So maybe some pixels, you know, here and there is not, it's not a bad thing at this stage of the process, at least. Also, the bitrate, it depends on the scale of the video that will be played at. For example, if you're planning to play this video on Instagram, you don't need all this, you know, great bitrate, because literally that's how people are gonna see your video on Instagram. So you can just lower the bitrate a lot and also create a file which is maybe around 100 megabytes or less. So if you go down to 7, 8 bitrate, target bitrate, that's okay. People will not realize. If it's for YouTube, of course, you want to increase the bitrate. So and usually I stay around 2 gigabytes in general for every video, more or less, unless it's a long tutorial, which is an hour long, and now my video will come probably to even 5, 6 gigabytes. It all depends. Before exporting, we go in the audio section here, and usually there's not much to do here. It's all ready to go. So make sure the audio codec is AAC, sample rate 48 Hertz, and you've got the stereo. Audio quality high. Perfect. Okay, for the captions, if you have a video like me with captions, select here, and now you will have, sometimes Premiere comes with none, so you will export your video with no subtitles. And if you're wondering why your video has no subtitles when you exported it, then this is the reason why. So you want to make sure you've got the burn captions into video selected. Here we go. And okay, we can scroll down again, and now you can press export or queue it. So if you press queue it, Premiere will open up your media encoder. I recommend to do so because if you press export from Premiere, you won't be able to use Premiere until the export is done, as sometimes it can take hours. But if you actually send your files to Media Encoder, you can keep working in Premiere too and work on different files, different aspect ratios of your, and different durations of your video. As you can see, Media Encoder is creating our file, putting it into a queue, and now we'll pop up here in this tab. Here we go, that's our file. The settings are already done, so you don't have to touch anything here. If you click on the name here, you make sure you're gonna save the file in the original folder we said, and it's already there because we saved it in Premiere. Perfect, so press save, and now you click the green arrow, so start queue, and here we go. Your file is starting to render out export. Okay, I'm gonna stop it there, or it's gonna slow down my computer. Let's say we want to export this for professional use, or for broadcast. So we want higher quality than YouTube for sure. Again, same thing, so in and out on your sequence, Command M to export, and our timeline will pop up again. This is a broadcast delivery, so usually they use Apple ProRes format. And we want to go down here in QuickTime. And in Sony Pictures, we used to use Apple ProRes 422HQ. So the size of your file will be much bigger than H.264 because this is a much better quality. And we want to make sure, again, we're going to export the video and the audio. Same as before, same process. We're going to browse where to save it. But this time, I'm going to call it Apple ProRes. Well, actually, we used to call it ProRes HQ. Here's my new file now. So it's high res. Okay, we double check everything. Apple ProRes 422HQ, still selected. I don't want a 4K video, but if you want to, you can leave it there. So what I'm gonna do is select this, which will keep the proportions of my frame, and I type 920. Automatically, I will have a 1080p for the height. 24, that's all good. Render a maximum depth, and I'm actually selecting 16 this time here for better quality. And here we go. So you don't actually have a preview of the size of your file, but to be honest, for broadcast or television, you don't care because they play huge files, but they need the best quality out of it, basically. And that's very simple. Again, you check the audio is there. Again, 48 sample rate, 48 Hertz, sample size 16-bit. You can go higher, actually 24, that's what we used to use. And then make sure you've got a stereo channels down here in your audio. So source 1 and 2 channels. Use maximum render quality. And now I'm gonna add it to the queue in Media Encoder. So we're gonna queue it again. And here, if my H.264 was still exporting, basically my Apple ProRes file will actually queue. So when my H.264 is gonna finish, we will start with the Apple ProRes automatically. And again, you can keep working in Premiere Pro. Here we go. All right, cool. Another couple of tips before I close, but I'm gonna close Media Encoder for now. Okay, now that we went through the settings, this is another tip, which is, especially if you're working on a long video, before exporting the whole file, export only a section of the video. So make a test and do different tests, different options, and see if you see any pixels as well in the video, if the bitrate is high enough for you, if the quality is good. So what I do, we start is by selecting the whole video, but I wanted to keep this after actually going through the settings. So you want to create a small, maybe a 10-second sections where you include a busy image, as we said before. So with a lot of elements together, maybe trees, people passing by, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of data that the video needs. And also include a quieter image where there's nothing happening, maybe just you talking to the camera or the sky, very simple images, and see how both react with the bitrate you chose. Right. This is the end of another tutorial. I hope it helped. Consider to subscribe, guys, because I'm creating a playlist with a lot of Adobe Premiere tutorials, and I will probably create other tutorials for After Effects as well and Audition. But I would appreciate if you could let me know down here in the comments below if you want me to work on particular videos, if you want to learn new stuff. So my background is in television and video making and video editing, so I hope I can help you there. Again, thumb up, share the video if you liked it, if you learned something new. I hope the video helped, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. God bless. Ciao.
Seems all good times come and go.